Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Diaries of Everything Ching. I hope you have your beverage warm, cold, hot. You know, I do not discriminate. So, you guys, first things first, please excuse my vocals today. My allergies is giving me a run for my money, and I cannot run fast enough. So, in advance, if I sound a little nasally, that's why. Okay? Second thing, I have been seeing this everywhere. Let's get to the main event, shall we? I have been seeing this everywhere, and I've had conversations with men about this. And I want to now bring it to y'all because I know for a fact my opinion is extremely unpopular. But it has to be said. It's time. Okay, so it's time to rip off the Band-Aid. 50-50. First of all, the 50-50 conversations I've been seeing has been strictly monetary, strictly about money, strictly about who takes care of what. Here now, my opinion on 50-50 is when you get into a relationship, regardless, something is going 50-50 is kind of across the board. Okay? So when you have somebody who brings in a certain amount of money, for example, housewives, stay-at-home moms, they're not working, so they're not bringing in any money, but they're taking care of the house. They're raising the kids. They're making sure that, food is ready when, the man is hungry or when their partner is hungry, because I do not discriminate here. When their partner is hungry. And they essentially make sure that things are taken care of for the partner that's going out and working. So it's easier for them. So it can be like, all right, cool. Like, work was hard, but I can come home to some peace. I don't have to do work twice. I don't have to worry about, okay, now I got to find something to eat. And, same thing. Like, if the other partner decided, okay, I'm going to go to work, and now both partners are working, they then figure out, okay, how are we going to make sure that the house is clean? How are we going to make sure that the kids are taken care of? This dating market is very money driven. And if a person, because it goes both ways, and I'm not here for the divisive conversations. I don't want to hear, oh, what about with women when they do this? I'm not a man. So I have to speak on my experience as a woman, and I am a, heterosexual woman who dates men. So my experience is going to be that with a man. So that's where my perspective is coming from. If obviously if you feel differently, please feel free. Let's have a conversation. Let me get, your point of view, and, let's talk about it. With that being said, this generation of dating is so money driven. Either you have somebody who wants to date of a certain tax bracket, or you have somebody who wants to basically use their money to manipulate a situation. If I buy you this, I need to get that. You can only get that if you're buying me this or giving me this amount of money. And so when you hear 50-50, immediately that's where everybody, like, if someone says, okay, what's your thoughts on 50-50? Immediately, money. I want a man who's going to pay the bills. I want a man who is going to make sure that my nails and my hair is done. I want a man who, if something happens to my car, he can come and he can pay for it. That's what you hear. Or, I want a girl who's not going to use me for my money. I want a girl who can also bring in money because I'm not using all of mine. You know what I'm saying? Like we are in such a divisive, money-driven dating pool that it's so hard to see a person for what they can be for you long term. And so for me, this dating pool is extremely foreign to me because the way I think of 50-50 is beyond the surface. I mean, yes, you do have conversations about how that money goes. So I'm going to call her a mentor because she really, 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 outside of my mom, is the only female figure who has really poured into me, right? So she told me that her and her husband actually have a tactic. So how they kind of deal with money. So basically, she has her account, he has his account, and they have a joint account together. In that joint account, they put in the money that they use for bills, vacation money, savings, and like miscellaneous, right? So when she gets paid, so they've had a conversation about how much each person is putting in. So when she gets paid, the first thing she does is she puts that money, her portion of the money from the joint account, in the joint account. And then when he gets paid, that's the first thing that he does as well. Because essentially, like I said, that's where like the bills are, right? So both of them need to make sure that they're accommodating that. And then after that, after they, they budget and they put what they put in the joint account, whatever she buys with her money is her business. And whatever he buys with his money is his business, because the foundation of their household is taken care of. That's how I want it to be. That's how I want it to be. How much each person is putting in there is the discretion of each partner. But I love the concept of just, okay, we're going to take care of this together. I'll put in whatever I can or whatever we agree. And, you put in whatever we agree. And then whatever you do with your money is your business. And I feel like that is a perfect example of 50-50. Okay? Like, you're putting some, I'm putting some for everything. We're putting in to make sure we have life savings. Because in every situation, everything's not going to be peaches all the time. If you're in a relationship and, your husband is the one bringing in everything, and then God forbid something happens and he loses his job, now the wife might potentially have to switch roles, where now she's going out, she's making it work, and he has to, take care of the kids, cook the meals, clean the house, right? And so, especially in this dating market, if both people are working and the husband loses his job and the wife is still working, she now has to make sure that she is, kind of rebudgeting her money to make it stretch so that the house is taken care of while he's still looking for work. But in turn, he would make sure that her transition is easy coming home from work. So for me, it's just more about how much you're willing to give and how much you're willing to take. And I feel like that's where the 50-50 is for me. I'm willing to give 50, meeting my partner halfway, and I expect for my partner to give me 50 and meet me halfway, so that we're both in the middle, we both understand what's happening, and we both know what direction we're going in as a unit. I'm not in, like, everyone who comes on here, online, whatever, and they have a certain standard, that is their business, because I don't know what people are bringing in. I don't know if, and people have experiences where maybe they're taking care of somebody, or the person wasn't motivated and, wasn't looking for a job, and, all those little stagnant behavior. So I can understand if somebody says, okay, no, the next person that I date, I want them to be making at least what's in my tax bracket, or 5,000 more than I make, or whatever. Because I'm not gonna lie, like, I would like somebody who I know we can do this. Like, if I'm down, he got it. If he's down, I got it. But we can do that fairly, and it's not too much on one side, because at the end of the day, it's a partnership, and it's not a short-term thing. It's not about what I can get from you without giving you this. Because then if that's the case, I don't need to be talking to you. I don't need to be in your space. And I surely don't need to be thinking about any kind of relationship. I do not want to meet my partner and think about what I can get out of him monetarily. Because for me, that's short term, and that's not for me. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm grown as hell. So like, obviously I'm dating intentionally. So if I'm looking at somebody, I want to be able to see, the longevity, the shit that matters. Okay, is this somebody who is emotionally intelligent? Is this somebody who I can be myself around? Is this somebody who can make me feel safe mentally, make me feel safe emotionally, make me feel safe physically, make me feel safe spiritually? Is this somebody who's going to bring the best out of me? That's what I see when I'm looking for potential partners. I'm not looking at, okay, well, let me see what I can get. Now, don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. I'm not going to just be out here just picking up somebody just strictly based off potential, because that's not where I am in my life. I am at a point in my life where there are certain things that I request that, yes, includes a little bit of monetary, but that's because I'm also bringing that to the table. I'm not looking to have somebody save me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not looking to flash on social media to look a certain way. Like, at the end of the day, I'm a real person. I have real responsibilities and I have real goals, and I want to share that with somebody. So that's what I think about when I think of 50-50. I don't think about all the other stuff. And again, everybody's definition of 50-50 is different, but there's so much people who is looking for a genuine love, like a deep, genuine love, but then it's getting overshadowed because there's such a large percentage of the monetary 50-50 take that it kind of pollutes the rest of the opinions of people who are in that pool as well. So then, everybody's kind of trying to protect themselves while going into the situation because the guy doesn't want to be taken advantage of and the girl doesn't want to waste her time. So it's really tricky, but it's like, if you just think about the deeper things, then, you can pursue somebody. Of course, you have those conversations, you make your choices, but 50-50 has always been about what the person can bring to you and what you can bring back. But it doesn't always have to be, it's so much more beyond the money, because you have people like Samuel L. Jackson was on drugs and his wife stood beside him. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's not always about like bread. She stuck beside him. He got rich, he's making money, and now she's benefiting. So their definition of 50-50, I'm sure, changed, right? The definition of 50-50 changes as well as your relationship progresses. So it's just kind of unfortunate to see that definition being reduced to such a superficial kind of definition. And so I'm just kind of hoping that people just become more intentional with their dating. Again, like I'm saying, money, I'm not saying money doesn't matter, because nobody's really trying to live the brokey, and I get that, right? But what you're requesting, make sure you can give in return, is basically what I'm saying. You're putting stocks in, right? Okay, cool. So the stocks you're getting back should equal to what you invested, because you want to at least break even. That's all I'm going to say. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, cheers to a new episode.